Hello everybody, my name is Brian Gemmell. I have a loud voice. I've had to yell across construction sites my whole career, 30 plus years. So if I seem a little bit loud, I'm sorry. Basically, Will said a lot about the inherent benefits of the building, the structure. I'll get more into that. Just like Frank, I'm going to offer myself to anyone that would like to speak to me one-on-one. The reason I say that is I'm not giving my background and why I'm up here today. Said to you, 30 plus years of a career. I moved into Garden City in '02. My wife and I are like many in town who lived outside on the edges of town whose dream was to get to Garden City. Hey, that's where the rich people live. That's when you made it. Okay? We're different than the other areas around us. The architecture, the beauty, it's where you want to live. That's just my opinion. For years after I got here, I followed the drama of the politics with St. Paul. I thought it was very sad. What I couldn't understand was I didn't see a lot of real fabric of why the building couldn't be reused. I heard stories about the toxic environment, this, that, and the other thing. Look, 30 years I've worked in a toxic environment. That's construction. I'm going to say that we have a lot of myths here, and we want to talk a lot of facts. I had a guy come up to me one day in town at Leo's. You can't develop that whole building. You know what? You can't do it in phases. You can't do this. And I said, really? Well, that's just completely untrue. You know, we have a lot of opinions, and there are a lot of opinions out there. Our job is to give you the truth, the facts. I've worked on 15 years building data centers for IBM. After that, 15 plus more years, because I wouldn't take a foreign assignment, I transitioned to working for construction companies, large construction companies in the city, Gilbane, Lear, JRM, very large companies. I've had a rich and wide variety of projects. I've done interior renovations. I've done complete buildings out of the ground as the head MEP manager and structural superintendent. I've worked on buildings like St. Paul, the Packer School in Brooklyn Heights, the Mary McDowell School at the St. Charles Borromeo campus in Brooklyn Heights, just 2 blocks away. The National Dance Institute at West 147th in Harlem, in a building that was built in 1890. The commonality is all these buildings are old construction architecture. They're not modern like you would see in Manhattan, out of the ground steel structures with a hanging facade. These are brick on brick. They're not cantilever construction. If you don't know what cantilever construction is, it's when steel supports and hangs a lightweight construction. It's a modern building method. Many people in town have said, knock that thing down, put in a new steel structure. We've looked at it, we've evaluated it. We feel differently. And I'll explain that. Basically, if you look at St. Paul's, go in your backyard and stack about 2 foot wide by 2 foot wide by 2 foot tall of brick. Try to move it. It is one of the most solid building methods. Basically, they build castles this way, but they use stone instead of brick. St. Paul's, in other words, it's a modern castle. I'm going to just get off this microphone. If you can't hear me, please let me know, but I just want to point some things out. If you look at this up here, these walls going around what we would call a facade. These are all bearing walls. Bearing walls are what hold the building up. Then you've got this wall here and this wall here. The hallways are the central bearing wall for the building. They help support the outer walls. Basically, the only walls that don't bear a load in this type of architecture are these walls. Here, 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 here. These coming out. Oh, these are coming out. In your home, you'd pay thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to take out a wall that's a bearing wall to get an open concept. Not here. Those walls are easily removed because the way these walls tie into the hallway is through the wooden joists in the floors, and then in the hallway, and then in the ceiling again. Basically, this old architecture is well designed. The thing where it falls down is that it's shaped like this as an E because of the bearing standards. This we looked at. We read the Tomasetti report. We looked at the building itself with a walkthrough. And we found the building to be very stable. I'll debate that with anyone. We also have a structural engineer on the team, Joe Jabor. He has his own company. He's a licensed structural engineer. He looked at this as well, and we all came to the same determination. What's great about this construction when you want to renovate is that it's really not a big job. It's interior construction. We're not flying in new steel to put up a new building. What we're doing is we're removing some walls to make a larger room. These are not difficult things to do. They're brick, they're plastic, they're wood lath. You might find it strange, but in the plaster you see sinew, it's horsehair. That's how it ties together. It's like the rebar of plaster, is where you have rebar in construction. When I work with Will, as he said, we complement each other in that my life has been bringing things out of the ground. I care more about things being stable than they being pretty. You guys pretty it up. That's what I loved about you guys. Essentially, in this position, you've got an Ivy League quality building. You've got solid oak doors. When we walked through and looked at the details, especially on the first floor, of stone door frames in incredibly solid shape. There were no cracks when we looked at them. And you've got oak doors that are still swinging unobstructed after, what, 130, 40, 50 years? I think that says something about the building and its settling. Because you wouldn't see that if the building was really heaving and, not stable. I also studied the Tomasetti report and came up with several conclusions. First of all, in that report, nowhere does it say that the building is in imminent fate of collapse. In fact, the opposite. It talks about, when it uses the word structure, that's not structural. They talk about structure for the mansard roof. The roof doesn't hold up the building holds up the roof. Yes, there are repairs to make. I hate to say it, but 30 years of no roof? I won't comment any further. The damage that's been done is surface damage. For me to build, he always tries to get me. He comes up one morning before my coffee, he calls me. How long do you think it would take you to do that plan I went over with you last night? I said, 14 months. 2 different crews, 2 different construction companies, because we have areas where we're going to do some light duty construction, real stuff, a little bit of foundation, some steel. But what's beautiful about this, with a building like this, I've got walls to support steel where I don't have to run vertical columns. All I've got to do is carve out a beam pocket, put in a bearing plate, fly in steel, set it on the best bearing load point I would ever want. The building has many, many positives when it comes to renovating. I walked through rooms and I was keeping account. Look, I may have a young face, I'm 59. Walk in that whole building one morning, at the end, oh boy, was I really done. We went all the way up into the clock tower, everything climbed around. As I was going through, I was making mental note of what do these rooms need? Cleaning floors, sanding floors, refinishing floors, finishing plaster, patching plaster. These are finish disciplines. This is an interior job. Got a couple of walls to build. Got some code compliance to deal with. I don't find it challenging. If I had to say easy, medium, difficult, this is on the easy level. It's not challenging. Not to do what we see we would like to provide at this point. I've looked at the pictures. I know how you feel. My God, look at that. Can you imagine living in that? Tons of peeling paint, plaster broken. You got some wood that needs to be, replaced because of water infiltration. But I can assure you, the building's not falling down. Now, on the facade, there are elements that have been noted by Tomasetti to be loose. Could they fall? A brick, a piece of stone? Possibly. I really doubt it. But that's why there's a fence, to keep people away. But that doesn't mean the building's going to collapse. It's not. We just got a roof on there. I think that speaks volumes and will do a tremendous amount of help to the structure. Pointing the facade, new windows, absolutely. The building has been plagued with decay. But I'll add up all that decay, and it's not like building a new building. Demolishing the building and building a new building. No. This is a much easier method. I went back. I said to Will, okay, if I really was having a bad year, 18 months scheduled beginning to end. And there's a reason. Do you see a lot of red here? Build a wall. Most of the demo could be completed within a month for the interior walls that have to go. And then wall, door, there's really not a ton of work. And this is bringing it into code compliance. Another myth out there is, oh my God, what will it take to get this building into code compliance? Well, I'll tell you one thing. First of all, the hallways and the doors are already code compliant. They're huge. I don't know how many of you have ever walked through that building, but it is special. Look out those building windows to those fields. You feel like you're on top of the world. It's a vast hallway system. Code compliance, fire safety, life safety, not a challenge, because from a value engineering perspective, I'll just link this. I worked and built several Google facilities in the city. What I loved about those facilities was it's basically a white box with surface-mounted electrical, HVAC, made my portion of the job very easy. There's no reason we can't do that to a large degree in this building. It's easily done because you've got solid foundation and walls to work with. That's one of the things that the person argued with me. Oh, you can't do, bring it up to code compliance and phase it. Yeah, it can. Sprinkler, life safety, fire alarm throughout the building, but I don't have to finish. I have to close walls and holes, but I don't have to make it pretty. If I don't need it, why would I do that? Value engineering can save a lot of money. In talking with people, I had a guy who was like, yeah, I was looking at the numbers, Brian. He goes, they had $5 million to refinish all the doors and oak. Why? That oak, that finish from the 19th century is better than anything we could do. I've seen it. It's more a cleanup. Anything rotted gets replaced, but the majority of it has not had water leak on it. It's dirty because of the peeling paint and the dust and the plaster dust, but it's not smart to go build a Taj Mahal. That doesn't mean that there shouldn't be some rooms that should be brought back to the original opulence of the building. Maybe at the entry area, maybe in a couple of the, you know, engaging areas, the chapel, but the rest of it, they're just rooms. Doors, windows, heat, air conditioning, light, life safety. I think that's where you and I sometimes challenge each other on the value engineering. Okay? Let's let you go.
Thank you.